Listen up, you guys. You've heard about my father, right? Starting today, I'm temporarily taking over the company as CEO. Sean, the CEO's son, suddenly showed up to the factory and shouted those words loudly to the employees working there. The CEO had fallen ill. However, there wasn't a single person in the factory who liked Sean, so everyone present grimaced. Did the CEO instruct you to take over his duties? Wouldn't it be more appropriate for the factory manager to run the company for the time being? Huh? A bottom feeder like you has no business telling me what to do. When something happens to the CEO, it's only natural for a family member to step in and take care of things, right? Outsiders should stay out of it. Besides, you're my subordinate now. Is it acceptable for a subordinate to defy their superior? Sean acted like he was the CEO, completely looking down on me. At that moment, I thought I needed to firmly speak my mind. Now that the CEO is absent, we can afford to waste time. Please refrain from causing any further disruptions. Huh? You're getting annoying. Who do you think you're talking to? You should speak to me in an appropriate manner. Or is it because you're uneducated and don't understand basic social etiquette? Who's the one lacking social etiquette here? I'm telling you to cut it out. This is a company, not a kiddie playground. I could understand if you were seriously trying to fill in for the CEO, but what's the point of having fun with interrupting the craftsman's work and looking down on them? You're fired. You don't need to come back, and you can go home now. We don't need someone like you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I was at a loss for words at Sean's nonchalant dismissal. What? Isn't it obvious? If you're going to defy the CEO to this extent, of course you're fired. Why did you think you could stay here so brazenly after pulling a stunt like this? It might be more accurate to say I was too shocked to find the right words. Sean was just arbitrarily calling himself the CEO, and he shouldn't have had the authority to fire me. Yet he said such a thing. I was astonished. But the next moment, then I quit too. I can keep working here alone while my respectful boss is being forced to leave in this manner. Besides, I can follow a CEO who has this kind of mindset. Huh? What do you think of me? Do you want to get fired too? Fired? I'll leave this company of my own accord. You don't understand how much Tyler has contributed to this company. I have no intention of following someone like you. My name is Tyler, and I currently work at a small-town factory in my hometown. After graduating high school and going through various part-time jobs, I found myself as a casual employee at the age of 20. Without any particular goals, I was just living day by day. Sick of that kind of life, I decided to work at a local town factory to gain some skills. I look forward to working with you. I'm so happy to have a young person join us. Thank you. It's physical labor, and there will be tough times, but we're a close-knit company, so if anything comes up, feel free to talk to me about anything, the CEO said kindly. I actually found joy in working there. This small factory only had 10 craftsmen working there. Most of them were over 50 years old, so it seemed like the CEO wanted to bring in a younger generation. By the way, Tyler, do you know anyone who's having trouble finding work? Is someone having trouble finding work? Well, I know some freelancers who want to become full-time employees. Good. If it's all right with you, could you try asking them if they'd like to work here? Our craftsmen are all getting older, and I've been thinking it's about time we start transitioning to the next generation. Sure, I'll ask around. Since the CEO had always been good to me, I actively invited those looking for job security. However, only a few want to work at a town factory these days. Most of them declined the offer, saying that better to live as a freelancer than to work full-time at a town factory. Sir, I can find any. I see. Then take it easy. We can probably keep going for another 10 years or so. We welcome anyone who's having trouble finding work and wants to work here. The CEO didn't pressure me, and I was able to work without feeling too burdened. I had thought the craftsmen at the site would all be difficult to deal with, but they were actually all kind. They patiently taught me, who knew nothing about craftsman's skills, and I visibly grew. In about 5 years of working at the town factory, I have grown to the point where I could make most furniture by myself. Good morning. Let's work hard again today. Work your butt off today, and when you're done, I'll take you out for a drink. Really. I'd love to go back to that sushi bar you took me to before. We can be going to a fancy place like that all the time. Geez. Hey. Since I was relatively young, the craftsmen I worked with often doted on me. They were very different from the stereotypical craftsmen who were hard to approach and expected you to learn everything just by watching. The atmosphere was truly close-knit, and I was able to build almost parent-child-like relationships. Grateful to be able to work in this kind of environment, I continued to work diligently day after day. And so, about 10 years passed. My furniture-making skills had reached the same level as a retiring craftsman, and I had already shifted to teaching the new people coming in. Nice to meet you. Furniture making requires delicate techniques for each and every piece, but if you tackle it seriously, you'll soon be able to make your own piece. You're very welcome here. Thank you, and I promise I'll work hard. While the number of young applicants wasn't that high, there was an increase in the next generation who would succeed the craftsman's techniques. I really enjoyed passing on my skills to them. I could pass on to the next generation the skills I had desperately learned up until now. Small-sized factories are said to be on the decline these days. With advancements in AI and robotics technology, craftsmen were becoming scarce. However, there are levels of craftsmanship that robots and AI cannot achieve. I took pride in my work, and above all, handmade furniture crafted from scratch was made to last a lifetime. That's why I put my heart into making furniture, and I wanted to convey that spirit to the next generation as well. I lived each day with that in mind. Then one day, wow, so this is the factory my dad runs. I was expecting it to be clean and neat, but it's honestly dingier than I thought. And look at this, just a bunch of sweaty men. Really, the world of manual labor. Hello, nice to meet you. You're the one showing me around today. You seem a bit sweaty. Do you take showers regularly? I'm sorry. I do try to keep clean, but with all the physical labor, I end up sweating. Well, I didn't expect much from people who can't make a living without working under others like this. Anyway, I just came today to hear about the workflow in the factory and the current situation. Can you wrap it up quickly? Yes, I understand. He was the CEO's son and had come to tour the factory today. The CEO apparently wanted his only son to take over the factory, so he had been taking him out to eat more often lately. I wasn't involved in the management of the factory, so I had no intention of complaining about the next CEO. That was for the CEO to decide and had nothing to do with me. However, the fact that he looked down on the craftsmen was a big difference from the incumbent CEO. The incumbent CEO truly valued the craftsmen and always said they were all family, like a mantra. But as I overheard earlier, the CEO's son seemed to view the craftsmen as mere subordinates and pawns. That's about it. Did you get the basics? I guess. I realized that even if I become CEO, I can pretty much wing it and get by. After all, it's simply grunt work. Simply grunt work. It's grunt, isn't it? Anyone could do this. And you guys working here, like you, don't have an education. Your worth as human beings is probably next to nothing. You should be grateful we're giving jobs to people like you. The CEO's son said that to me. The process may look like simple work, but it actually requires truly delicate skills. We work desperately every day to acquire those skills. I couldn't stand him looking down on us and laughing without knowing anything. It's not grunt work at all. Each process incorporates the craftsman's techniques. If you tried it, you'd understand how difficult it really is. Me. Try your work. You think I'd do bottom-rung work like you guys? No way. It's not bottom-rung work. The people here take pride in the work they do. I'd like you to stop looking down on that. Especially if you intend to be the next CEO. You know, just because you've been working at this company for a long time doesn't mean you should get too full of yourself. Let me tell you, you're all just laborers. You're easily replaceable. That's the level of people you are. If you're overestimating yourselves as craftsmen, you better quit it. He just spat out those parting words and left the factory that day. He completely looked down on a craftsman, and I couldn't forgive his comments no matter what. If he won't understand no matter what I say, I have no intention of lecturing him further, but I think I'll tell him off strongly the next time he comes. The next day, I went to work as usual, but I didn't see the CEO, who was usually the first to arrive. Huh? The CEO's not here. No. We got a call from the factory manager earlier. He said that the CEO isn't feeling well and plans to be hospitalized. What? Hospitalized? I was surprised to hear it just now too, but apparently he's battling an illness. I'm concerned about his health since he hasn't been alive and kicking, losing significant weight. Lately, I've been occupied with training our newly hired young employees. So I only saw the CEO during morning toolbox meeting, but I never imagined he had fallen ill. It was truly shocking. Come to think of it, the CEO had seemed a bit down lately. Listen up guys. You heard about my old man, right? Starting today, I'm temporarily taking over as CEO. Listen up you guys. You've heard about my father, right? Starting today, I'm temporarily taking over the company as CEO. There wasn't a single person in the factory who liked him, so everyone present grimaced. They were worried that if he became CEO, even temporarily, he would wreak havoc in the factory. And while I don't know how he behaves in front of the other employees, I know he looks down on the craftsmen working in the factory. There's no telling what he'll do while the CEO is away. With that in mind, I was on edge. Did the CEO instruct you to take over his duties? Wouldn't it be more appropriate for the factory manager to run the company for the time being? Huh? A bottom feeder like you has no business butting in. When something happens to the CEO, it's only natural for family to step in, right? Outsiders should stay out of it. Besides, you're my subordinate now. Is it acceptable for a subordinate to defy their superior? Sean acted like he was the CEO, completely looking down on me. If this was the CEO's order, we'd have to obey without question. But Sean was probably doing this on his own. Things were already tough with the CEO gone, and we didn't have time to deal with this noob. At that moment, I thought I needed to firmly speak my mind for once. Now that the CEO is absent, we can afford to waste time. Please refrain from causing any further disruptions. Huh? You're getting annoying. Who do you think you're talking to? You should speak to me in an appropriate manner. Or is it because you're uneducated and don't understand basic social etiquette? Who's the one lacking social etiquette here? I'm telling you to cut it out. This is a company, not a kiddie playground. I could understand if you were seriously trying to fill in for the CEO, but what's the point of having fun with interrupting the craftsman's work and looking down on them? Usually, since he was the CEO's son, I didn't get too confrontational no matter what he said. And I always used polite language with him, but this time I had no patience for that. I wanted him to cut it out, and I didn't have time to humor this spoiled brat. I also didn't want him messing up this town factory the CEO had built up over the years. If you get it, then hurry up and go home. Getting cocky cause I stayed quiet, huh? Do you even realize who you're talking to? That's why I'm saying this isn't the time to. He still doesn't get it after I put it so strongly. I sighed deeply from the bottom of my heart. I couldn't understand why he lacked so much comprehension. Did he prioritize doing what he wanted over the company his father had built? I truly couldn't fathom what he was thinking or what his goal was in doing this. But the next moment, the words that came out of Sean's mouth made my mind go blank. You're fired. You don't need to come back. Feel free to go home. We don't need someone like you. Do you understand what I'm saying? What? Isn't it obvious? If you're going to defy the CEO to this extent, of course you're fired. Why did you think you could stay here so brazenly after pulling this? I was at a complete loss for words at Sean's nonchalant dismissal. It might be more accurate to say I was too shocked to find the right words. Though he claims to be the CEO, he has not been given the authority to dismiss me. Yet he said that. I was astonished. What are you saying? Like I said, we don't need a wannabe craftsman like you. Getting too big for your britches for a mere laborer. Do you understand what the word fired means? I guess uneducated folks might not even get the meaning of that word. There's no way you can do that. This isn't your company. With Dad's power has gone, this is my company. I keep telling you, but you are getting too cocky. Don't underestimate people. For a moment, I thought Sean might be joking, but he was dead serious. He was genuinely saying he was firing me. This was unacceptable. You think you can get away with that? Stop messing up this factory any further. As someone indebted to this factory, I couldn't stay silent. I had rarely ever yelled in such a harsh tone in my life, but that's how much anger and sadness I felt. However, It seems my emotions have failed to reach him. Fired is fired. No matter how much of a fuss you make, it won't change the result. If you get it, hurry up and change out of those sweaty work clothes and get lost. Sean glared at me as he said that. I had reached my limit, but there was no point in arguing here like this. I thought I'd visit and explain the ongoing concern to the CEO, who has been hospitalized. Then I quit too. I can keep working here alone while my respectful boss is being forced to leave in this manner. Besides, I can follow a CEO who has this kind of mindset. Huh? What do you think of me? Do you want to get fired too? Fired? I'll leave this company of my own accord. You don't understand how much Tyler has contributed to this company. I have no intention of following someone like you. Kyle, who was like a disciple I had raised since I was young, expressed his dissatisfaction with my dismissal. I was happy to be looked up to that much, but at the same time I felt bad. Kyle didn't need to quit. I had things I wanted to say about Sean's words and actions, and I thought it would be bad to leave things as they were. But that should be enough with just me. Kyle, you don't need to quit. Don't you know how many lives of the craftsmen here Tyler and the CEO have saved? What? Saved lives? Most of the craftsmen working here are people who couldn't get a decent job for some reason. But the CEO helped them, and Tyler was the one who treated us without any complaints or discriminations. If it weren't for these two, what would have become of me? There's no way I could work under someone like you who disregards their efforts. Kyle said that strongly. His income had been sporadic for a long time, and he had even been caught shoplifting. After that incident, he was down in the dumps and jobless, but the CEO helped him get hired here. Upon joining us, I diligently trained him to become a craftsman. I was surprised to hear that he felt that indebted to me. I've been listening to the conversation. Kyle's leaving. Then I'll quit effective today as well. I also have a debt to Tyler I can never repay. Same here. You seem to look down on us as bottom rung, but even the bottom rung have their pride. The craftsmen who had been listening to us started saying one after another that they would quit this factory. Of course, at this rate, more than half the craftsmen would quit, which would end up troubling the CEO. But with Sean in complete control now, there was no other way. If most of the craftsmen quit like this, how will you take responsibility? Huh? There are plenty of replacements for you guys. Don't get cocky. With his high pride, he tried to force his way through without acknowledging his mistake or apologizing until the very end. But my goal wasn't to get fired from this company. The craftsmen here felt the same debt to the CEO as they did to me. I think it's out of the question for all of us to quit and cause trouble for the CEO. It was because I understood that feeling that I made a certain suggestion to smoothly resolve the situation. Then why don't you call the CEO right now? If you really think what you're doing is right, there shouldn't be any problem. I'll do that even without you telling me. But those of you who said you'd quit on your own better think it over carefully. If you come crawling back later saying sorry, I'll definitely abandon you. Of course, I had no worries because I knew how the CEO would respond. I don't know if he found it strange that I was being so confident or if he realized what he was doing was wrong, but his eyes started wavering a bit. I thought he might be getting flustered, but he told us not to forget what he said. The same could be said for him. I wouldn't let him say he forgot what he did to us employees and that he called the CEO. With that in mind, I watched him call the CEO. Hello, Dad. These pesky craftsmen are defying me. Well, they're more like wannabe craftsmen, but they're getting too big for their britches. Could you give them a stern talking to? He blatantly lied. He probably hadn't heard much about this factory from the CEO. Or perhaps, he had heard about the factory but just assumed the CEO looked down on us the same way he did. He probably thought the CEO would yell at us. With a smug look, he put the call on speaker and turned the phone towards us. Then, Sean, come home right now. Stop bothering everyone any further. Dad, what are you saying? Don't make me repeat myself. You're causing trouble for the craftsmen. I know everything you're doing. The CEO yelled loudly over the phone. Even though his body should have been so ravaged that he collapsed and was taken to the hospital, he was that angry. But how did he get such detailed information? Wait a sec. Why am I the one being blamed? I didn't do anything wrong. If they're trying to stage a strike or something, I thought I was helping your company, Dad. Help. I know that's not your intention at all. The factory manager told me everything, including how you did whatever you wanted and tried to arbitrarily fire the craftsman. I see. It wouldn't be strange for the factory manager to report the situation to the CEO right away. Wait a minute. I was just trying to eliminate unnecessary personnel. Cut it out already. There's no unnecessary personnel in my factory. If you leave, it'll all be resolved. There's no place for someone who looks down on the people working in the factory. There were several craftsmen there who said they would quit if I was fired, not just me. So he ended up being humiliated in front of many people. After the CEO said that to him strongly, he hung up, and there was a brief moment of silence. And as if to break that silence, he opened his mouth and started talking. Why are you all looking at me with such contempt? Don't get cocky just cause he took your side for a bit. You're the one who's getting cocky. Just because you're the CEO's son. Why did you think your position was so much higher? You have no rights and can't do anything. Why you? Anyway, since the CEO gave instructions too, could you please leave? We can afford to waste any more time, and you understand your position the best, right? Don't think you'll get away with this. He spat out those parting words and left. It was really pathetic, but there was nothing he could do once he was abandoned by his father, the CEO. No one would take his side, and he completely lost his place. If he had acknowledged us more, it wouldn't have come to this. That's impossible. A guy like that will look down on people like us forever. Well, it's too late even if he regrets it now. But what would Kyle have done if he had gotten fired like that? It's a good thing the CEO intervened. Oh, that. I wasn't worried about that at all. What? I was glad Sean was gone, but more than that, I was concerned about Kyle's actions. If by some mistake Kyle had gotten fired, all his hard work up until now would have been for nothing. I was really happy he stood up for me and took my side. But more than that, I wanted him to think about himself more. Tyler, I know you're worried about me, and I'm truly grateful for that. But more than that, I trust you and the CEO. Well, since you, Tyler, raised me to this point, I had already decided to follow you if anything happened. But you know, all's well that ends well, and you should be happy to have a disciple who looks up to you this much. How could he be so cheerful when he might have been fired just moments ago? I ended up laughing along with him, but that's how much he believed in me and the CEO. I was really happy about that fact, and I was able to sincerely think that I wanted to cherish the craftsmen who looked up to me going forward. A week has passed, and the CEO is making a recovery, scheduled to be discharged from the hospital. And then, I'm gonna start working here from today, so I look forward to working with you all. My position is at the very bottom as a subordinate, so drilled a way of working here into me. Surprisingly, along with the CEO's return, his son Sean started working here. We were all shocked, but the CEO seemed serious. On-site work. I thought the quickest way for this boy, who completely looks down on the people working in this factory, is give him a hands-on training. Anyway, there's no need to hold back at all, so I'm counting on you. After that, we started working with the CEO's son, but he wouldn't listen to us at all and had a cheeky attitude. However, there is a standing order from the CEO that we are free to discipline him whenever he shows even a bit of a cheeky attitude. So we showed no mercy. He was insincere initially, but I used the carrot and stick approach in mentoring him in the skills of a craftsman from scratch. As he gained experience, he started to show interest in furniture making, which he had once looked down on as grunt work, and eventually developed a sincere attitude toward his job. After a year, his talent shone through, and he could be entrusted with a fair amount of work. It took me 5 years to become full-fledged, but I thought he really had a knack for it, at least. And in 1 year, he had completely changed his attitude and started working diligently, so he became a fine apprentice craftsman. Well then, I'm counting on you again today. Same here. I look forward to working with you. He learned proper speech and greatly improved his attitude towards those in higher positions than him. And what I think the most is that he gained respect for everything. Until now, he had only viewed us craftsmen as subordinates. I think that's his biggest change. There are many things you can't understand unless you actually try them. Even jobs that are said to be unnecessary in the world are actually supporting many people. and there are many meaningful jobs. That's why we must continue to have gratitude just for being alive. Humans definitely can't live alone, and as long as we're alive, we're receiving help from someone. I hope he continues to work while deeply feeling such things. And I also intend to keep working hard without forgetting the initial spirit I had when I started working. Because I believe that's the most important thing in living as a person and as a craftsman going forward.